Alright, 9.3, last for this week. You have a quiz tomorrow. Depending on your class, which my students, it's due Monday, otherwise you get a 0. And make sure you take it by Monday, otherwise it is a 0. And Miss Johnson's students, make sure that you are taking yours by the time she says you usually have to take it. Again, you do not want to get a 0 for something. It pulls your grade down a lot. Just make sure you at least get a grade in, because a 0 in anything is the easiest way to fail a class. But as long as you're getting any kind of grade, you at least have a shot. But so far we've used the distributive property to distribute multiplication to multiple values. So we are distributing this 3 to that 2. And I'm going to do it without showing the step. But 3 times 2 is 6 with an x, plus 3 times 5 is 15. We are taking this 3 and we are distributing this multiplication to two different numbers. We are taking this 4 and we're saying 4 times 2, which is 8x. We're saying 4 times negative 7, which is negative 28y. We are saying 4 times 5z, which is 20z. But again, we are distributing multiplication in both of these situations. That is 3 times the whole thing, and we are distributing the multiplication to 2 numbers here. We are distributing the multiplication to 3 numbers here. But we can also distribute division. This lesson here is going to look at the process of simplifying a fraction by distributing the denominator. In other words, through the division part, we're going to distribute that. It's easier to do than to explain, so again, I'm more of an action person than a discussion person, because I also used to struggle with math as a student, and I know that whenever the teacher would use all these big words and I would think this is going to be difficult, and then once they did it and I had a chance to actually get into it, it actually made more sense. So forget about what I just said and pay attention to what we're going to do here. This is where we're going to be, but don't copy this yet, because again, I'd rather have you paying attention to what we're going to be doing. This is a fraction. 15y plus 24 over 3 is how we would read it. But remember that what we learned in the first chapter last time was that this means division. So pretty much it's 15y plus 24 both being divided by 3. And so what we are going to do today, again, don't write it, just follow along, is we are going to say, since both of these are being divided by 3, let's split it into 2 fractions. And we're going to take 15y over 3 plus 24 over 3. Again, notice 15y over 3 plus, split and taking that other part, 24 over 3. And what we do now is we say, what is 15 divided by 3? That's 5, and bring down the y. And 24 divided by 3 is 8, and that would be where we start, or where we stop. But that's all we have to do. Again, whenever we have this situation that says simplify, you are simply going to split the fraction based off of that denominator. Notice again, 15y over 3 plus 24 over 3. So you're distributing this 3 to both of these numbers through division. Just like you can distribute the multiplication, you're also going to distribute the division. Alright? Do not forget in algebra that we show division by using fraction notation. That's really the key to this whole thing. The first set of problems is going to help you to practice the division portion of the work, an example of what it's going to look like, and this is just going to be one question. Each of those questions is going to give you 4 different options of the same thing so that you kind of work on the answer. So this says 70 over 5, but it really means 70 divided by 5. Again, don't feel ashamed to use your calculator, which is 14. But if 70 over 5 is 14, then 70g over 5 should just be 14g. And that's what you need to understand, is the four different ways you're going to see this. Divide it and just bring the g down with it. Keep in mind with multiplication, one negative made it negative. Same thing here. 70 divided by 5 is 14, but there's one negative, which means it would be negative 14. By the way, you do want to copy these 4 down, so I'll bring that back up here. Again, 70 over 5 is 14. 70g over 5 is 14g, because again, the 70 over 5 changes, but that g has to come with it. The reason this is negative is because there's one negative in the problem. And then the same thing here, negative 70g over 5, again, it's going to be negative because there's one negative. 70 over 5 makes 14, and then don't forget the g attaches with it. And again, those questions I'm giving you are going to have each 4 of these things to make sure that you are considering that's just 14, that's 14g, the negative makes it negative, The negative and the g makes it negative 14g, just to make sure you practice that part. But that is going to be, I think, 2 questions on your homework, just to make sure you've got that part down before you move on. Because in the work that you do, you are going to have to show the split step. Just like in the distributive property you had to show the meetings, in this problem here you're going to have to show the split, at least for this time around, until we've seen it enough that I believe that you have it down. So what you're going to have is 2 boxes. I'm just going to use 2 equal signs, but the things that you're going to write are going to go into the boxes here. But other than that, what we're looking at here is 64m plus 72 all divided by 8. So we are going to split this fraction first into 2 fractions. First fraction is going to be 64m over 8. Now I need you to remember from our distributive property that we will always use a plus sign. Always connect with a plus sign. And then the other thing is going to be 72 over 8. If you don't know what 64 divided by 8 is, grab your calculator. 64 divided by 8 is 8. But don't forget there's an m, so 8m. And then 72 divided by 8 is 9, so plus 9. That's all. But this would be your first box of work in your MathXL, and this will be your second box of work. But I am forcing you to show the split, so I know you at least understand the concept of splitting it and then simplifying each one of those parts. Again, I guess I can fit all 3 of them in the screen for you to copy. B. Again, this is 45c minus 18, both being divided by 9. So what we will do first is split it. 45c over 9. Do not forget we always want to connect with a plus. I don't care what anybody else does. You want to connect it with a plus so you don't lose it. And then what you got to remember, just like in the other one, this is a negative 18 over 9. Now let me explain to you, whenever you do this, that you want to make sure that you put your plus, and then you're going to come over here. I would hit the fraction button first before typing in the numbers, but again, I can show that to you somewhere else whenever you ask for it. But just make sure you hit the fraction before typing the negative 18. Otherwise, it puts negative and then 18 over 9, and that's probably going to not work the way you want it. So make sure that you put the fraction first with the 18 up there. But again, if you have an issue, email. I will be glad to help you out with that. But other than that, we wrap this up by saying 45 divided by 9 is 5 with a c. Don't forget the c. And then again, one negative, just like we just talked about, some of those situations, is negative 2. And that would be your answer. This is the answer you have to show, or the work you have to show, and that is the answer that we are looking for. Same thing here. Split it first. 39t over 13. Again, always use a plus. And then the other number, negative 169 over 13. Now all you have to do is divide. 39 divided by 13, I think 3 of those go in there. But I don't know what that is, so I'll just do that in my calculator. Negative 169 divided by 13, which is negative 13, so minus 13. Again, this has to be shown for your work on homework, and that is the final answer that you're going to leave in there. I do not think this is tough. I think that if you're approaching this with something in your brain already, thinking that you don't like it, as I talked about the different types of students who just walk into every lesson thinking, I don't like this, you're not really listening anyway, so there's nothing you can do. And it's not that you didn't learn it because you couldn't. You didn't learn it because you didn't want to. But again, as long as you want to learn this stuff, I think it's easy enough to do. I think we're moving at a pace that is definitely within your reach. You just have to turn it on and actually start caring enough to do it. Again, remember that you need to connect the 2 fractions with a plus sign. If necessary, move the negative to the top. Okay. Today's homework has all the questions that will be on your quiz. So again, work to understand those questions, and you should be fine tomorrow on your quiz. My best advice for you, now that the quarter is starting, is that you take your test tomorrow. I know some of you like to wait and all that stuff. I don't know about Miss Johnson's class, but I know mine. My students like to wait until Monday and even later. Give yourself some breathing room. Take your quiz tomorrow. Give yourself a true weekend, and then go ahead and make sure that you can start next week right like you need to. But other than that, like I said, it's your call. This is your career. So again, make sure you're trying to make the best choices to, at least improve. Don't make the same mistakes you made before. But other than that, good luck. I'll talk to you next week.